Hello and welcome to Being Dad. My name is Pete, married to Emma for 11 years and dad to Frank for 6 years.
Hiya, I'm Ian. I've been married to Catherine for 6 years, coming up to 6 years now. I'm a dad to Kira and Rosie.
Okay, tonight we have a special guest, our good friend and NCT guru, Catherine. Please introduce yourself.
Hello, everybody. I'm a different Catherine to Ian's Catherine, just to be clear. This is a different. I'm not going to just talk about Ian on this chat this evening. And I look after Parents in Mind in the Northwest, and I am a mum to two children who my son is 6, nearly 7, and my daughter is 10.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. So this is episode 6 of Being Dad podcast. We've spoken to men about their experiences of becoming a dad and managing their mental health difficulties. And we thought it was time to hear a mum's perspective of what it is to be a dad, I guess. First question. This sounds like a quiz show question, actually. When you met your husband, did you think, this is the man I want to have children with? What was it that made you think that?
It is. It's like Mr. and Mrs., isn't it? I got a prize for the right answer. Gosh, I don't know. I don't think I didn't go into the relationship thinking, right, this is the guy and children. I thought this is a good person to be around, who's got similar values to me. And as you get to know that person and enjoy spending time with them, I thought I can trust you to make good decisions. I think that we want the same things out of the future and we believe in a lot of the same things. So I could see that working out, obviously, because that's the route that things went down.
Yeah, no.
So kind of the decisions to get to know him more seriously and start a sort of serious relationship were based off of values and a similar kind of outcome of life, kind of. I think the best.
Similar sense of humour,
yeah.
And just very, very different as family setups for each of us, kind of coming together. Very, very different kind of values within our families, but that has resulted in two people that I think we are quite contrasted in some ways and very similar in others. And the very similar parts are the ones that I think help us make good quality decisions as parents. But I never went into the relationship thinking about that. It's something that you sort of realise as you go along, I think.
How did your relationship change when you became parents?
It's blatantly obvious you're going to have less time for each other, and we really enjoyed each other's company, so that was really hard. When I became a mum, our daughter was very much looked forward to, planned, loads of support around us. Like I said in the last sort of question, very, very fortunate to have a lot of planning and support in place. And that makes me I feel inspired by a lot of the parents that we work with that are able to raise children, which is an enormous feat when they haven't got those things. And I felt incredibly guilty that despite having all those things, when my daughter was born, I didn't bond with her in the way that I thought that I would with everything in the garden rosy. I expected my eyes to meet hers and it to be this Hollywood experience of, our eyes met in the delivery suite and it was wonderful and she was, a mini me or whatever. My husband was very patient with me, just in allowing me to make that transition. And don't know what expectations we had of each other because everything we thought might happen kind of fell by the wayside and we had to sort of regroup and go again. And I think when you are exhausted because of lack of sleep, when you have lost your way in terms of you had your mind's eye on what this was going to look like and it doesn't look like that. And I think I felt a real sense of shame and stigma at having the level of support I had and not going to meet that with gratitude, joy, innate natural parenting. I felt that I was letting everybody down, so I kind of kept all of that to me and I didn't want to share that with anybody. And on the surface the days the health visitor came, I would spend the day rearranging the furniture and making sure the house was immaculate, just to be sure that nobody would notice that there was any issue whatsoever, so that I could get her out of the house again and then go back to feeling rubbish. And I think the important thing to draw from that is the fact that mums are potentially seen to be the ones that are going to naturally take to having this baby. And I talk to many, many women who don't take naturally to having a baby and feel a great sense of shame and stigma talking about that.
You said, yeah, when you first was born, you kind of expected that Hollywood moment. So, yeah, what were the other things that you kind of heard that thought this is what it's going to be, and how did what else did you think was going to happen?
I think it's whether it's a social media thing, whether it's the fact that we live in a world now where we talk about, or we're certainly beginning to talk about mental health struggles. And when I look at my mum's generation, my nan's generation, the expectation was you have this baby, it's the best thing that ever happens to you, and you get on with your life kind of thing. And the idea that that jars with what you're living feels really difficult to navigate and difficult to talk about with family members that have got a vested interest in this being wonderful for them as well.
Is that we're all trying to meet these little narrow expectations and these little pre-molded shapes of what a man is, what a woman is, what a mom is, what a dad is. And it's just the damage that that's doing to people and their expectations, rather than just saying, this is my experience of parenthood. They're suddenly comparing it to everyone else's and not go, wow, this is really hard. This is way harder than I expected. And why didn't someone talk to me about this? Because I feel really lonely right now. Did you envisage it was going to be something that you blossomed into?
Yeah, and I think because of the level of support I had, because of the amount of preparation, if you like, I was married for 6 years before my daughter came along. And because I was a teacher at the time, I thought, I know kids. I've never looked after anybody's young child in my life, but I knew kids through school. So I thought, I know what kids are like, that'll all be fine. And it was kind of like as if I'd set up this sort of, I don't know, this set of skittles really, and I was just ready to knock them down. And then I rolled the ball and none of them fell down. And it was just a real shock of, oh, okay, and there are no more balls. Just keep rolling that one and they're going to stay standing up.
It reminds me of a Mike Tyson quote that everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the face. And I feel like with parenthood, it's like everyone's got a plan until they get woken up at 1 o'clock, and then at 2:30, and then at 3, and then at 4:30, and then at 5, and then at 5:30, and then at 5:45.
So true. So true. I don't see myself as maternal. I see myself as a parent, and I see my husband as a parent. And I would like to see us both free of the baggage. I know that together we are excellent parents, and that is all that matters, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I was going to just say, because men and women are often labelled pretty early on. What's a normal expectation of a mum and a dad, or a man and a woman in a relationship? So I've personally experienced gender bias when our Frank was a little baby and I'd take him to the play park, and quite often mums would come up to me and say, oh, are you babysitting your son, or is it mum's day off? Because there was some kind of, as far as I was concerned, it was quite an ancient perspective. Mums do all the childcare, dads go out to work, and that's the way it is. And I found it offensive that there was these labels that are still being thrown around in a modern age. So how do we change that? How do we change those viewpoints? I mean, I guess it's us educating our children the differences.
Something I've learned very recently as well, since we've begun to support dads and partners, which is only in the last 12 months, I've learned a lot, because I know that mums, that exact hating point you've just raised there, Pete, that idea of a dad babysitting his own children, I find that offensive as a woman, because I think that so totally devalues your role as dad. But I also find it offensive because it suggests that this is all my work to look after this person and this all sits with me. And I know a lot of our mums find that sits really heavy, that sense of this is on you. And I felt that's part of the thing that I struggled to navigate at the beginning, and part of the reason I didn't want to talk. Even within my own very supportive family, they were the last people I wanted to talk to because of their very supportiveness. I didn't want to let them down. And a service like Parents in Mind, something much more anonymous, would have massively ticked my boxes to have had conversations, like you've just said, real conversations about, not advice, just it is hard.
I just thought of a point, I don't want to jump around too much, but what you were saying about grieving your old life and the absolute essential, we've covered this a few times, the absolute essential nature of self-care is that you're only as functional as much as you are thriving yourself. So if you're able to self-prioritize time, or whether that be to sort yourself out or to connect with others, to remind yourself that you are still a person beyond your role as a parent, is something that I probably took maybe 2 or 3 years to get over the guilt and the shame of feeling like that. It took me so long. I just thought, it's tough. You signed up for this. You got to just suck it up. And actually completely lost all sense of who I was. And it's probably only in the last couple of years I've actually allowed myself the permission to go and do the things I enjoy. And that will be separate from Frank. That will be separate from Emma, because we all need that time. Is there anything that you found useful to do that's simple and accessible? Because often, like you said, people don't have much time. Time is very precious for all of us. And if we're working and struggling to meet requirements around that, how do you find time?
Self-care is not an expensive spa day. It is grabbing those moments as and where you can. But I think as much as it's important to grab those moments for you, because I think you can only be solid as a parent and as a partner and as a unit, in a part of that family unit, when you yourself feel that there's something in your cup to pour from. We talk a lot about you can't pour from an empty cup. You've got to put something in to have something to give back out. But I think as well, it reflecting on the conversations I have with lots of mums, I would really urge dads that are listening to hear what you're saying around self-care and to invest in little windows of that where it's possible, but also to not feel any stigma in having conversations with mum, because I know that a lot of the dads I've spoken to have said there is no place for me to suffer with my well-being. If baby is well, if mum is well, then I need to shut up, because I can't rock the boat and I can't sort of destabilize that relationship. And I would say as a mum, I would really value a partner that's able to tell me what they're finding hard, not only because I want to be there for them and I want to support them in their struggles, it would also, from a totally selfish perspective, make my struggles feel more accessible and more allowed and less stigmatized. And I think when we talk about self-care isn't always going out and doing something that switches you off and helps you escape and settles you. Sometimes self-care is having those difficult conversations. That is the self-care. And in the moment, it feels horrible, whether it's a financial conversation, whether it's a conversation about chores not being, split up or childcare or whatever it is. Those things that feel meaty and hard and uncomfortable and the conversations you don't look forward to, they are conversations that you get. The self-care element comes in the aftermath of having resolved something. I would urge any dad listening, please don't pull yourself in so tightly that you are not able to share. Lots of the mums that I talk to would absolutely rejoice in their partner sharing more with them, because they know their partner is struggling and they would love to be let into that and be part of that dialogue. So
don't suffer in silence.
Yeah.
Don't squash yourself and don't suffer in silence, because you are a partnership, I guess. And then that it should be we're only as functional as the weakest part, I guess. So we all need to be in a good place.
So, so what would you say to those people who need their own self-care, and who's probably even sometimes a partner needs their own self-care, when they're in an atmosphere or an environment where the idea of self-care is not 100% appreciated, or the partner's not ready to have that conversation yet?
That's a really, really good point, Ian, and it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because everybody has to buy in to that same idea, and it kind of comes full circle to what we were talking about at the beginning, and the idea of picking a partner. And some people are not in the position, or maybe you learn about each other as you go along, and a baby coming along can change the dynamic at home. And I think if you're not in a place where a family dynamic where self-care is valued, that might be something that you might need to seek outside of that support space from a service such as Parents in Mind. I've said myself, I was in a family setup where there would have been a lot of support for me to talk, but I felt uncomfortable. That was in me. That wasn't in the family dynamic. That was in me, feeling that I was letting people down.
So my wife, a lot of the time, she just wanted me, just all she wanted was to do half an hour of some sort of fitness class. And all she needed from me was to take the baby out in a pram for a walk to the local park and put the baby in a swing and just go, or on us, whatever. He just occupy the baby for half an hour. And if it was a lovely sunny day, it would be fine. If it was a rainy day, I'd just have to take her in the living room, or take her up to a room and play with her up there, just so my wife had a bit of space. And it was just half an hour so she could do a class. So sometimes it can be as simple as that.
Yeah. And it's that opportunity to regroup, isn't it? And just find you again. And I think we speak to lots of parents who value finding themselves only as important for if it has an impact on baby. It does. It always does. You having time for you to fill your cup up will only ever have a positive impact on baby. I would just encourage any dads listening to talk, whether that is to your partner, which is I obviously, we can't possibly know the ins and outs of everybody's relationship and the dynamics of that. But I would say that the all of the mums that I speak to would want open conversation about how it feels in your head being a new dad. I would say that I can't think of a mum that I've spoken to in 400, 500 odd mums that would say, I don't want to know. I don't want to hear that.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Catherine. So this has been Being Dad. Thank you for listening, and thank you for watching. If we've talked about any topics that have hit home for you, then please go to www.nct.org.uk and look for Parents in Mind.
That's us. That's where we are.
Yeah.
And if you're in St Helens and you'd like to chat, then give us a shout.
Wonderful. Okay, thank you.